The problems are then thrown at the courts and election petition tribunals. You need to appreciate the danger that we're facing. Right now, majority of cases in our court, many of our courts, are simply suspended to allow for time-bound election disputes to be resolved. We can't go on like this. We just cannot go on like this. And what is the solution? Again, once the ongoing election petitions are concluded, we must, in the interest of the country, go back to the drawing table. And the solutions are around the corner. But successive regimes, since about 2007, have refused to adopt the solutions that have been preferred. One, the first one, is on the independence of the management election bodies, the INEC and the State Independent Electoral Commission, which, by the way, the State Independent Electoral Commission conduct the worst elections in Africa, whereby all the candidates of the ruling party must win. Two, some of those who are accusing INEC of rigging elections perform worse in the conduct of primaries of their political parties. Now, the first one is we must have an electoral body, and we're all going to respect that is independent and well-funded. One, the Ways Electoral Reform Panel recognized that when the sitting president appoints electoral chiefs, there are problems. Therefore, we're going to appoint electoral chiefs, INEC chairman, the commissioners, national commissioners, and the RECs, resident electoral commissioners, by advertisement.
But that's been talked about before. I remember you talking about it in 2019.
Yeah, but these guys are not ready.
Right.
Now, once that is done, the National Judicial Council will shortlist and send the names of the best three for each of the positions to the Senate. The Senate that will screen them, not take a bow, re-screening to know if they are competent. Right. Secondly, all election petitions, all disputes shall be concluded before the inauguration of the incoming government, so that nobody will be accused of using the position of the executive incumbency powers while your election is still being disputed.
But do you trust the judiciary to be able to really deal with those cases in that short space of time?
Well, we have 6 months.
Yeah, because you see, I see what you mean. Yeah, since, from the conclusion of the election
let me just finish.
Right.
Yeah. The third one is that the onus of proof, the onus of proving that a credible election has been conducted shall be on the INEC. Because you have told the whole world, you have conducted the best election, you come to court and prove same. Because to impose the onus on the petitioners is very difficult. To get the election materials, a Herculean task. But INEC has all the materials. You come to court and prove that the election that we have spent huge sums of money on has been well conducted. So these are the major recommendations.
But what is the state of the law at the moment? Can someone, because you, for example, in the past, you've had the reputation of taking different institutions of government to court.
Yes.
I mean, can someone take INEC to court and say, come and prove just what you said, that you conducted a free and fair election?
Under the current Electoral Act.
Right.
The onus is on the petitioner. But the Ways panel recommended that the onus be shifted to INEC. I mean, for instance,
But can you do it as a civil case and
no,
say, right,
because the law is there.
Right.
And this is what the law has provided for. Yeah. And so that is why the commission, the panel recommended that we need to amend the Electoral Act. And since then, we filed the Electoral Act 2010, Electoral Act 2022. And these guys simply brush aside this fundamental, amendment, recommendations. Because in 2011, there was a crisis following the announcement of the result of the election. There were protests in about 12 states in the north and in Akwa Ibom State. And on that basis, President Jonathan set up the Ahmed Lemu Committee to review the crisis and then make recommendations. Again, the panel came to the conclusion that for us to avoid electoral violence and so on and so forth, we need to go back to Waste panel. President Buhari, who was elected in 2015 and celebrated the introduction of technology, also set up a panel headed by Senator Ken Namani to review our electoral laws. Again, that body recommended that we need to go back to Waste panel. So there is a general understanding that we need, incidentally, as the national leader of the APC, I think, yes? No, ACN, then APC. Asiwaju Bola Tinubu, the current president, set up a committee, CODA, Committee to Promote Electoral Reforms. And that body also campaigned for the implementation of the recommendations of Waste panel. So there's a general agreement that we need to reform the electoral law instead of blaming judges. The current Electoral Act and the jurisprudence promote injustice. For instance, in the Electoral Act, paragraph 51 of the first schedule told the electoral provides that no electoral officer can go to court or the tribunal to give evidence against the election that has been conducted, even if he or she is convinced that the election has been manipulated, unless he obtains the fiat of the Attorney General. The Attorney General, either at the federal level or the state level, is likely to have been appointed by the president or the governor, whose election is being disputed. So, and the other point that was made, that the era of the impunity that characterizes our elections has to stop. And so the panel again, the Waste panel recommended the establishment of an electoral offenses tribunal. We pursued that matter 2 years ago, or last year. We convinced the Senate to pass the bill for the establishment of an electoral offenses tribunal to deal with those who are messing up the electoral process before, during, and after the elections. Again, the House of Reps did not pass the bill. Hence, we are back to square one. So again, this is an opportunity now for us to look at the aspect of the Waste panel's recommendations that have not been implemented. So that we can put an end to this ugly development and the shame.
That's a very good point. Yeah. But in that context, should those electoral reforms be spearheaded by President Tinubu himself? Is that the way to restore confidence?
No, as I said, President Yar'Adua in 2007 admitted publicly that my election was highly flawed. That's his language. Therefore, I'm going to ensure that we do not have a repeat. I mean, that was General Obasanjo's election, the do-or-die election, which over 300 people were killed. And before that, 2003, Buhari and Obasanjo, the late Justice Pats Asholonu made the point in the Supreme Court that under our electoral system, to successfully challenge a presidential election, you will need about 250,000 to 300,000 witnesses. And there can be no time for that. Now, we have only 21 days to do that. Now, what then happened after that? The panel made profound recommendations. Even the Yar'Adua regime did not quite accept.
So clearly, this is all much more political than legal,
of course.
really.
Now, as I said, President Jonathan set up a panel, President Buhari set up a panel. Now, President Tinubu will have to lead the campaign. Now, it's very, very, very important. And that is the only way for us to get out of this mess. It's a monumental